with where you're at now in this series, with it being 1-1, sort of how do you feel about the way that things have gone in this sort of series, in the sense of, do you feel you have a firm grasp on it, or is it still, well, you understand some things, there's maybe a few questions in other areas?
No, I think we got a pretty firm grasp on, and I'm not overly disappointed with where we're at in the series either. I think that we had portions of game one where we weren't at our best, and we had portions of game two where we weren't at our best, and we're able to come out of there with a split. And there's portions of those games too where I really liked our game. So it's about trying to get more consistent with it, get to it more often, and try to make some things happen on a more consistent basis, really, for me. Yeah.
Coach, I think we talked about it a couple nights ago. 2 delay a game, too many men penalties. I'm sure that's got to be frustrating. I guess, what was that a symptom of? Was that just kind of sloppiness in the play? And then what happened on that second too many men? Was that just a miscommunication on the bench there?
Yeah, I think Mikko started to come to the bench, and then Cogs jumped on, then Mikko changed his mind and went back out. It's like, to me, those mistakes over the glass, because on those two, we weren't forced to throw it over the glass. Like, it wasn't like someone, was coming right on top of us where we had to get rid of it quickly. Sometimes that is the case, but that just, to me, it was not being mentally sharp, and most of that was in the second period, and yeah, that's why we struggled in that period. I don't know what happened in between periods and for the second, but then we regained some composure, some work, discipline in our game for the third, and we have a really good third. So it's a culmination of a lot of things, I'm thinking.
Jared, I was chatting with Zach Parise, and he says he remembers talking to you and Chris McFarland in November, and not sure what his next step was in his career. Yeah. And do you remember what I don't know if I'd say your pitch, but why you had interest in bringing him in, and how you sold that to him? Yeah,
well, I mean, we watched a lot of his games from last year, the year prior. Felt like he'd be able to come in and help us in a bunch of different areas. Like, he's still a productive offensive player. He's trusted on the defensive side of it, can play both special teams. We were a little short on forwards at the time, and felt like this would be a guy that not only could we bring in, but could help impact games for us. And then it's selling him on his role, and just how much fun it is to play with, in Denver and for our team. And we have high expectations and aspirations, and at the time we felt like we were going to be a playoff team and hopefully get in the playoffs and make some noise. And so I don't know who all else he was talking to, but it's part of the reason why, when you coach in the minors, you're recruiting guys all the time in the ECHL, and then when you're able to win with those guys, it makes it extremely rewarding. And it's in a little bit the same here when you're trying to get free agents. And even though I don't usually do those pitches, but you talk a guy out of retirement, he's got options, and you bring him in. It's part of my motivation on why I want to win. I love for our team to win, and have Zach experience that, because it's an amazing feeling. And so I think all of our guys have their own motivations, but I also think they are working for one another as well.
Obviously, it's the playoffs. You obviously want to win every single game, but is there any positives you can take out of that last game, knowing that Cale, Nate, and Mikko, first game they don't have a point, and you still almost mount this 4-goal comeback, and especially the first 2 goals coming from guys in the bottom 6 like Yoel and Duhaime?
Yeah, absolutely. We can. Yeah, and third period too, there's some positives. And again, I didn't mind our first period. Like, there's some things that we did well, some things that we'll have to be better at as the series goes on, and those guys are certainly part of that. But yeah, it's a team game. I think they had some guys that probably weren't as good as they wanted to be in game one, and that were better in game two. And Dallas Stars have something to say about it too, right? Like, they're playing, and they're a really good hockey team. So it's not going to all just be Avalanche dominating a game or Stars dominating a game, because you got 2 pretty good teams going at it. So there's been some momentum changes and some shifts in who's carrying the play throughout these 2 games already, and who's scoring at key times. So, those guys will get going. I know they'll be better tonight than they were the other night, and let's should help steer us in the right direction.
To go a little bit big picture, you think about what we've seen in the West between your series as well as Edmonton, Vancouver. What do you think it's been about the West in particular where holding on to a lead, it's becoming extremely difficult with almost each and every passing game?
Yeah, I just think, I don't know. It can be different from game to game where you're creating chances and not scoring on some of them, and then they come in bunches. But it's certainly a mental boost and a pick-me-up if you believe in what your team's doing and you have firepower, which I think all the teams in the West have firepower and can score. You get something going your way, it's like a snowball going downhill, and the other team's trying to survive for a little bit. If you can capitalize on a chance or two, it starts turning the tide, and the belief gets stronger and stronger. And, teams pour it on. They're all good teams. They're very, well-balanced teams and well-matched teams against an equal opponent. So you get it kind of turned in your direction, then you can hopefully put enough heat on the other team to keep making mistakes. And when you're playing from behind too, you get to a certain point in the game where you got nothing to lose. You're either going home with a loss or you're pushing to try to make it a win. So I think it's evenly matched teams, all desperate to try to survive and advance. So they're going to lay it on the line.
Last two, Colleen and Jesse.
Between the second and third period of that game, what flipped with those leaders in the room, that top line being kind of frustrated as they were in that second period? How do they come into the room and get the rest of the team motivated to go back out there for the third and make that change?
Well, we got a lot of leaders in the room, so it didn't necessarily have to be those guys that were frustrated from the second. I think there was a lot of guys in our room not frustrated with the way they were playing. More, I think it's solution-based for our team. You know what I mean? Like, we're trying to find solutions. If something isn't going right, we're looking for solutions as a coaching staff, as players. So then you're, really thinking about what your focus needs to be. Like, what are the keys to tactically to doing things better? Is it work ethic based? Is it competitiveness? Is it just, cleaning up some of your puck play? And you try to give them direction, clarity, and it's up to them to stay resilient and to be focused on the right things that will lead to success. And we no different than we've been doing all year. It's about our process and getting back to, I don't know if you call it basics for us, but the things that work for us that make our identity strong. And when we play that way, then we're tough to beat.
Over the course of a 7-game playoff series, with respects to, turning the page, how similar is your guys' mindset after a win versus after a loss?
Almost identical. Yeah, almost identical. Yep, thank you.